where we have about 2,000 people living together as one large community with no exchange of money within the community. Till the age of 25, I never had any money. And it changes your whole value system. You respect people for their inherent value, not because of how much they earn or how much money they flaunt. And it changes everything. But such a system cannot exist unless there is a kind of a deeper bonding already present within the community. And as humanity awakens to its own deeper bonding as human beings and a part of a larger oneness of humanity, this inevitably will be the direction of our economic movement. At present, money itself has become a cause for itself. We're building money out of money. In other words, we're building hot air. Money has become equivalent to a pack of cards piled up in a fancy house, and the whole thing is floating in midair. We're building on speculation, and eventually everything collapses. That's because money itself has been disconnected from the goods it represents. Money is nothing without representing something of value. And eventually we have to fall back to the value itself. And at some point, currency as paper intermediate value will vanish and we go back to the thing itself. And that's certainly something for the future, as it has been in the recent past.
Discussions or workshop I attended, somebody made the remark that if climate was a bank, it would have been rescued a long time ago. And I think that it's a very crude remark, but it really sums up what is valued in the society. That we, the West, everybody preaches about that we're on this catastrophic path, but no one is willing to sacrifice anything. But we're willing to come up with money out of thin air to save banks, 600 billion and plus others. So I think it really speaks to how do we get that shift in awareness? How do we get the masses of people to really come to grip with this, about our miscalculation or misvaluation of what is important, what is essential to life, and what it is that we need to actually save and give up to save what we value, what we say we value.
How long I'm going to have to wait for? If I see that there's a need for something and I begin to do that myself first, others begin to see it and appreciate it and value it, and many others begin to do the same. So don't wait for the city council or the government to put a bid there, but just make a bid and put it there yourself, and others will also begin to do it.
And to the questioner, I would simply say that at this defining moment, and I believe that's what we're at, we must recognize what Thomas Berry once called the great work of a people. And what is the great work of a people? He said, but to make a fundamental choice about the way we are going to live. And grasping the significance of that moment, Berry said, is to make the deep shifts in thinking, perception, and behavior that are required to succeed in this new reality. And if enough people who share the values of these religious constituencies represented at this table make that deep shift, not just in thinking, but in perception and in behavior, it's inescapable that the leaders who assemble at COP16 over at the Moon Palace, or the leaders that assemble in the White House to determine questions about climate financing, or elsewhere around the globe this week, it's impossible, you see, for them to ignore what we believe. If, as a collective, we behave on what we say we believe and perceive. And that is truly a call, very called the great, great work of a people. And it's worthy of all of us. That's how I transfer your
I want to follow that up with this. I really mean it. You know, I honestly mean it. That I believe religion legitimates when you accept as your creation story a story about domination, and you define it. You define domination as your spiritual purpose and reason for existence. Now, nobody's going to use that word in so many terms, but when you say fill the earth and subdue it, that's what you're talking about. I want to know, I think you need to go to the UN designers and definers of COP16 and ask them, why is this the only conference in my memory on this subject that introduced even the notion of the relationship between spiritual ideas, scientific ideas, cosmic ideas, and economic ideas. I think you ought to be having conferences for pastors, writers, preachers, and teachers, and ask them how they are dealing with this topic. Churches are staying away from this topic like it's a plague. They'll tell you, well, that's not our question. That's a political problem, or it's a scientific problem. No, it's not. Every one of these speakers tonight have told you it's a spiritual problem. And I'm not sure this is coming through the churches at all. I think that we have to call the churches to their own responsibility to deal with this topic as a spiritual question. And then when and I don't mean to imply that you do it first and you hold everything else. But until we see the two, all we're doing, all this conference is doing, is maintaining the notion that the two things are separate. And they're not. Until the spiritual religious community as a community comes on board across all traditions and says, this is what our scriptures are about, and this is what we say, you are not going to know why you can't get people to agree on these issues.
The immediate is what you can do irrespective of everyone else. If you're waiting for someone else to change, it won't happen. So you start by making that change in yourself, and as was pointed out by Richard, in your thought, in your speech, in your action. Complete. When you have this operational, you've already made a huge difference. And on an inner level, when enough individuals change, there is a shift in the whole species. That's what we call the 100th monkey principle. I don't need to elaborate on that. But it's something scientifically demonstrated. If enough individuals change, there's a shift in the whole group consciousness. Out of this emerges the next level where you as an example impact those immediately around you. And at that point you have the right to tell them to change themselves because you've done it. And then out of that emerges the third stage where you can impact more widely through the educational process where you teach the younger generations, sensitize them. You raise the issue of dirt in the streets. I've seen that and I've seen how it's changed. But it starts with a certain mindset in which my little home is the only world I know. And the street outside is not me, not my concern, not my responsibility. And it's only when my consciousness widens out and opens up and I see the streets as my own space, my own world, and the whole world as my backyard, then my responsibility extends to that extent. And that shift is going to take place step by step. And education is still the key for the long-term change. But that won't happen until we start with the immediate change, which is in our hands.
A closing comment from Joe, and then we run out of time.
It's a very quick one. I wanted to speak to the question that the woman over here asked about money. And my comment is very short, and I think it relates to everything we've been saying. We believe in money. We understand what it is and what it does, and we save it. So the whole question is about belief. It's finally what we've been talking about. It's about what in our hearts matters. And we have unfortunately come to almost deify money in a way that denies us the truth and the power of the Spirit. And I think that's what we're saying, is this is one of the deepest things that we have to come to grips with, is we have to value the spiritual.
looking